Okay, now in this film, I mean, there's a lot of comedic aspects, and you still want to scare the kids. How do you balance that, both overseeing this as the producer and as the director visually? How do you balance these two things?
Well, you want to deliver both in equal portions. You want to have people laugh in 1 minute and jumping out of their seats the next. And you know, it's a process. It grows out of the script and then grows out of Rob's direction of the actors every minute, always thinking about what's the fun of this moment or what's the fright of this moment, where I can get a visceral reaction out of the audience. And so it's a little bit of a, walking a razor's edge the whole time, but that's absolutely what we were after.
And I think that it's, it's making sure that every time it gets really, really, really scary, that you can lighten the mood with a joke.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now tell me about the house. Where did the design come from? How did you go about putting it all together?
Well, the story takes place in New Orleans, and so we looked at all the antebellum mansions that are so popular there. But we decided we needed something that was on a grander scale, something that was going to be a little bit bigger for this movie. And so we kind of used our imaginations a bit and brought in different influences from different periods of architecture and kind of brought them all together. But it's primarily a New Orleans sort of design.
Okay, now the visual aspect of the film in terms of CGI, it seems like also you use more, you brought Rick Baker on board, so there's not as much CGI as maybe in some of the other big budget films we're seeing these days. Was that a conscious thing, or was that what came out of the story?
I think it was a conscious thing. We looked at the ride, which was built in the 1960s, and we wanted to evoke that kind of sense of style and that kind of retro feel to it. So we realized we didn't have to create the zombies in that way in CGI. And Rick Baker is a genius at this, and he's been doing it for such a long time and does it better than anybody else. And it was so exciting to give him an opportunity to do something, that he does so well.
Okay, now is this film in the vein of any old type of scary films?
Oh, there were a lot of films I think we both liked when we were growing up. Films, anything from Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein to Ghost of Mr. Chicken to Ghostbusters to, the kind of funny guys in a haunted house movie. But none of us could remember one of those for, many, many years. And so it's kind of a little genre that seems to really be popular with audiences, and it was fun bringing it back in this.
Okay, now there's a delicate little, tightrope walk you're taking here with scaring, but you don't want to scare the kids too much. Mm-hmm. How did you guys work together? How did you talk about making that happen?
We debate everything and talk about everything. I think, if anything, we were always trying to push it to be as scary as it could, because scary can be really fun, and scary can be really entertaining. And I think you don't buy a ticket to go see a movie called Haunted Mansion without expecting to be jumping out of your seat once in a while. And so it was never too much of an issue. In fact, if anything, I think Rob was always looking for places where he could make it, more frightening or push a joke further to make it funnier to capture that tone.
Yeah, I think kids today are also pretty sophisticated. They've seen a lot, compared to what I remembered growing up. So I don't think it was ever an issue whether we could go too far. I mean, unless we were doing something truly horrifying and morbid, which, of course, that wasn't what this was about.
Okay, now you guys are given a budget at Disneyland, and they're telling you make your own ride. What would you do? What kind of ride would you make?
Wow. A budget at Disneyland to make our own ride. I think we should probably make the Lion King ride, because they never did.
Yeah, they never did.
And how would it be?
Do the Lion King ride.
What would you go through? Would it be a roller coaster? What would you do?
No, it would have to be like a dark ride, like the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean. Showing tableaus from the movie. That would be fun.
Okay.
Recreate moments, big musical numbers.
Let's pitch that.
Okay.
All right, great.